Hey everyone, and welcome. The playoffs to the biggest tournament in Valorant's history, First Strike, is happening this week. This is the sum of over a month and a half of qualifiers and hundreds of pro matches being played. What's left are the final best 8 teams of both the European and North American regions. Not only do we get to see the best teams duke it out, but these games are also being played on the most recent patch with both Icebox and the new agent skye enabled. This is huge and will be a meta-defining moment for Valorant. We'll be able to get insights into what the most powerful strategies the best players are using on each map, along with the best agent picks. That's why we knew we here at SkillCapped had to jump on this. Every single day, we'll be uploading a rundown of all the matches played, breaking down the most powerful strategies used and most valuable insights into Valorant's meta. Trust me, you don't want to miss an upload this week. Make sure to subscribe with bells on, as every day we'll uncover new meta tactics never seen before. And we're putting in a ton of effort to make this happen, so we'd be grateful if you showed your support by liking and leaving a comment below with who your favorite team is heading into the tournament. Jumping into the first match of the day, we had Team Liquid facing off against Team Heretics. Team Liquid was the obvious favorite heading into this match, sporting the aimbot machine known as Scream, while Team Heretics are much less known, only beginning to make a name for themselves in this tournament as they demolished through the First Strike qualifiers. For this series, Liquid decided to ban out the map Haven, while Heretics banned out Icebox. Liquid had the first pick of the map and chose Split, by far their strongest map, sporting a 75% win rate on it over 24 pro matches. Meanwhile, Heretics had only ever played 2 matches on Split, and they did win those 2, but Liquid was definitely the favorite in this game. In terms of the team compositions on Split, both teams went with the standard Omen and Raze, but then went in vastly different directions. Liquid filled out the rest of their team comp with a Breach and Jet combo, something you'll be seeing them use with great effectiveness in this series, and finishing with a Killjoy. Meanwhile, Heretics went with a more unorthodox pickup of Sage and Reyna, finishing with a Cypher. Funny enough, throughout this series, the Sage pick ended up being pivotal for Team Heretics. On the map Split, they brought out a really unique and effective approach to playing B site. At the start of the round, Omen flashes out to gain control of B main, and then will smoke the entrance to it. Meanwhile, Sage pushes in and gets a very deep aggressive wall on the entrance. This would prove to give them a lot of early intel and allow them to fall back to B site and then rotate as needed. Team Liquid simply did not have a counter for this strategy. You can see the setup in this round. Omen flashes, Sage then slows and moves forward, Omen then smokes the entrance, and then Sage places the wall down. Team Liquid then tries to brute force through it with Breach Flash, Jet Dash, Killjoy swings in with them, but it's too strong of a defensive setup for them to deal with. Additionally, after the trade kills, you can see how due to the first fight being taken so far into B main, that it gives Heretics plenty of time to start rotating the B Heaven player and an A player to B site before Liquid is even able to get there. This game also highlighted the new pro meta in Split, where a lot of pro teams are giving up mid control on defense. Notice how Heretics go for the same Omen and Sage tactic in B main. From here, they then fall back to hold B site as 2 players. As Liquid gets control of mid, Raze then plays passively falling back from stairs in B Heaven. Essentially, they're just giving up control of B Heaven and mid and looking to tempt Liquid into pushing into B site with the aim of picking them off as they do. And this worked to great success throughout, as they were up 7 rounds to 5 heading into the next half. It's here we saw Liquid having a complete opposite approach to defense on Split, playing passive on B site to opt for more control over middle. They then immediately get punished for it, not able to maintain that control of mid, resulting in a very standard B split attack, essentially taking the site for free and forcing a 5v5 retake scenario. Despite Scream doing his best to bring the game back with his trademark multi-kills, the better strategic play from Heretics resulted in a big upset, stealing the first map from Liquid. Heading into the second map, Ascent, which Heretics picked and were definitely the favorites as it's statistically Liquid's weakest map with a 55% win rate over 11 pro matches. For team compositions, they both went with an Omen, Sova, and Killjoy, which are starting to be the 3 standard meta picks for Ascent. From there, Liquid went with their bread and butter Breach and Jet combo, while the Heretics went with a Sage and a Raze. This is really when we got our first glimpse into basically Liquid's entire strat book for this match. Throw down standard smokes, Breach flashes in, Scream on Jet then dashes in and looks to kill any flashed enemies for free. Now, don't get me wrong, if you have a duo partner in ranked, use this strategy as it will be insanely effective, but this is pro play that we're talking about. Quite literally, all of their 1 rounds on attack came from this one strategy, while all of their losses occurred when it either failed or they tried anything else. And although this basically boils down to a team with 4 supports and Scream on Jett looking to hard carry them, they did show one interesting variation. Using this predictability to their advantage, they sent Jett and Breach to fake the attack on B site, baiting the defenders to rotate, while then sneaking their 3 other players into A site, resulting in a free plant in a 1 round. In the end, Liquid did win the map 13-10, but Scream had to put up insane numbers, dropping a 30 bomb in a pro game, and it really highlighted their one-dimensional approach. This then took us to our final map, Bind, where Heretics were actually undefeated on in the tournament with a 100% win rate over 12 games. Both teams went with Brimstone and Sova. Now you're probably thinking, hold on a second, Brimstone instead of Omen, what's going on here? This is a new meta that's developing on Bind, where pro teams are starting to prefer Brimstone. This is because his ultimate has tremendous value on the map, for example getting free kills on any defenders trying to play lamps on A site, but also with how fast executes have to be on Bind, Brimstone is a real asset, being able to drop 3 smokes down instantly. Liquid then picked the Jett Breach combo, not really a surprise as it seems their entire attacking strategy is reliant on it, and Killjoy. Heretics rounded out their comp with Raze, Sage, and Cypher, much more traditional picks for Bind. Now, I just want to say, this game was absolutely insane, and I highly recommend that you check it out. Just take a look at this first round strategy by Heretics. Cypher places a camera in hookah before the barrier drops, and then runs all the way to the teleporter. Then, once the barrier drops, he instantly takes the teleporter and hides inside it for the round. He then uses his previously placed camera to scout outside of the teleporter to see if any enemies are pushing into hookah. Later on, once the enemy is then spotted on the camera committing to a B site rush through hookah, he then uses this intel to time his push out of teleporter doors to catch them off guard from behind. One other cool defensive strategy shown by Heretics later on involved choosing to use Sage's wall on Showers instead of the more standard short A. This delayed Team Liquid's Showers push while also informing them that they're there due to them having to shoot the wall. Team Heretic used this intel to prepare 2 players to go through the B-long teleporter while also rotating Raze into Showers. This effectively trapped Liquid once they took the teleporter with 2 players on each side of them, and once Brimstone ult goes down, they begin to swing and the trap is sprung, completely shutting down Liquid's shower attack. So what kind of tactics did Team Liquid bring to help them fight back? You guessed it, the Jett Breach combo. Standard smokes go down, Breach flashes in, and Jett dashes into entry frag. If Scream hits his shots, then he looks like an absolute god, and the team wins the round. If on the other hand Scream gets killed, well, everything quickly falls apart and Liquid suddenly looks completely outclassed against a relatively unknown team. It got to the point where I was worried for Scream's health, thinking at any moment his back would break from carrying so hard. This game served as a Scream highlight reel. The amount of clutches he had to pull out to keep his team in the game is astounding. And nothing encompassed this dynamic more than the final round of the game. This is round 28, 4 rounds deep into sudden death with a match on the line. What do we see? Liquid goes aggressive on defense with the Breach flash into Jett dash combo. Scream is able to pick up 2 kills before falling. Now Liquid is up 4 players to 3, and so you think the odds are in their favor. Well, you're wrong because Scream died, and if Scream dies on Liquid, so do their dreams of getting out of quarterfinals. In the end, a big upset coming through as Team Heretics narrowly beat Team Liquid 2-1 and move on to the semifinals, which will be played on Saturday, December 5th. Now, I just have to say the stats Scream put up in this series is absolutely insane. 89 kills, 49 deaths, 17 assists, average damage rate of 215, headshot percentage of 39%, and got the first kill in 23 rounds. If Team Liquid can't win with that kind of a performance coming out of one of their star players, well then they're definitely in trouble. Alright, next up in the European quarterfinals, we have the match played between G2 Esports and Orgless, which our friendly neighborhood Jack has covered for us.
Thanks, Hex. So, for our second match of the day, we had European juggernauts G2 squaring off against the perennial contenders in Orgless. Not much can be understated about this G2 squad. 6 Ignition Series event wins, unquestioned #1 ranking during that time, incredible statistics backed by a battle-tested battalion of players. Coming into First Strike, this squad had never lost a BO3 series ever. Just let that sink in. You may occasionally get a single map off this G2 team, but thus far no one has knocked them down in a full series. Comparing that to Orgless, it's even more egregious than comparing David and Goliath. But at the head of this ship is a historic name in Counter-Strike. Legendary 2-time world champion Happy is the current in-game leader. The French Lurk God is looking to head a team of misfit Europeans in this colossal task and serve G2 their first L in a best-of-3 play ever. The map veto for this set was first game split, second game on Bind, and the decider if needed would be played on Icebox. Out the gate, a theme we will see throughout this set is the ego of G2, for good or ill, is right in the middle of this matchup, saying right to Orgless, we are so confident that this game won't go past 2 games that we'll toss in a map we haven't played yet just to mess with you. Gotta love the mind games though, so let's see how it plays out. Jumping right into Split, our team comps were relatively standard on both sides with the utilization of the new standard big 3 for Split, Omen, Cypher, and Satan. Wait, sorry, that's a typo. Oh, that's Breach. Not really sure how that got in there, but we're just gonna go with that. The flavor picks for both teams included G2 bringing the Battle Sage a la Heretics, and Raze for duelist support. Orgless favored the same Raze pick, but chose to also add the fantastic operator support provided by Jet. Now, I have to come clean here. The first half of this game is very hard to watch, because watching G2 slap around Orgless like they were warming up against bots made it very hard to find anything of interest to go over. Like, look here to the 11th round for example. G2 just decide that it's time to claim B-side as their own, 5 lads in garage ready to go, followed by Omen smokes in heaven, a breach rolling thunder to destroy half the site, followed by Cypher cage to cover the cross to the plant area. Delezi, more like deleted, killed before he could do anything impactful, and before Orgless can blink, there's a Sage wall in spawn, and Heaven can even begin to move out onto the site. These kinds of overwhelming takes are a hallmark of G2's playstyle. Burst out onto the site, control it within a second, and you have no chance of retake. Now, you'd be right to assume that G2 went on to win the pistol and the first map in short order right after, right? Well, that's certainly what I thought, but like I said earlier, the ego of G2 is a double-edged sword. G2 tried to play with their food a bit and didn't respect Orgless enough to not count them out from fighting to the last round. This led to this strange scenario where G2 ended up on the back foot economy-wise for most of the second half and just kept bleeding rounds. Suddenly that 10-2 lead kept getting closer and closer, while Orgless got more and more confident, all coming to a head with the score now tied 10-10. G2 managed to scrap around, barely getting their first win of the half to make it 11-10, then immediately get crushed by a comeback run by Orgless, and this was just beautiful sloppy Valorant by both sides all around. Very little strategy, just aim duel after aim duel after aim duel, and whoever the better team was came out. All of that leads to the most pivotal round of the match. G2 are broke. They literally have nothing left to prevent the match point. Most people would just save and go for the overtime, but not G2. Again, that ego thing. They forced up this ridiculous buy of Stingers and Bulldogs and went forward looking for a miracle, and they got it. Orgless, at over a minute of waiting, run a similar set piece that G2 did at the end of their attacking half. Omen smokes, Breach ultimates, and flashes, but it all just goes wrong because G2 were ahead of them and went for the gamble B stack. This is their best chance. Stack the SMGs in one spot and hope and pray it works. One paranoia to ruin them all, and G2 pull a flawless round out of nowhere. This round broke Orgless. The next round was nothing but a formality, and G2 snaked the first map from the brink of defeat. And if you thought the crazy was over after that first map, I got good news and bad news. Heading over to Bind, the first thing we need to talk about is the concealed carry Viper pick from Orgless. Boo takes up the mantle of solo controller on the best agent ever created in this pivotal elimination match, and honestly, I respect every bit of it. The rest of the composition from Orgless is very standard. Jet, Raze, Sova, and Cypher to support the god of the simulation, and over on the G2 side, we see their standard composition: Raze, Cypher, Breach, Omen, and Sova. Viper's impact is felt immediately in the pistol round as Org show off their default A take via Viper, utilizing smokes and walls tossed from the short cubby to slice up the site. The wall would cut off the entirety of U-Haul and part of the spawn tunnel, while the main smoke would be used to cover Heaven. This elegantly slices up the site, allowing Orgless to divide and conquer the site. The strat itself is really strong and would have netted them a pistol round win had the overwhelming power of the classics right click had not sliced their hopes at the knees. David P gets a last minute clutch defuse, putting Org on the back foot early, despite their tactical excellence. Throughout the first half, we saw more of the scrappy aim duel play that hallmarked our first map, but one thing became clear: Orgless only had the one A execute with Viper. They showed no variations on it at any point in their half. The problem with that is that relying on a singular strategy will over the course of the game lessen its impact, and that's no better seen than in the 9th round. Despite putting G2 on the back foot early once again and securing site control, Pith, one of the craftiest players in the world, finally decides to punish the reliance on the Viper Wall to isolate U-Haul. His push is well timed and its execution is deadly, netting a 3-for-1 trade and utterly stopping any momentum Org had generated to that point. From this point on, the game really became just trading blow after blow between these two teams. Orgless really pushed G2 to their limit in this series, but it felt like at every point where they might break through, G2 would just pull off insane clutch after insane clutch. It all led to the eventual win for G2 and the elimination of Orgless. G2 once again win a best of 3 and remain unbeaten in any map played so far in First Strike. But they looked vulnerable. Through the egos getting in the way to simply being outstratted and out-aimed at points, Orgless exposed that G2 aren't impervious. The problem is that we don't know if any team in this tournament can strike the killing blow and eliminate them in a best of 3 play. They have to play Heretics on Saturday. We don't know if the Heretics can hold up to what they might bring.
In the first match of the North American quarterfinals, we had Team Envy facing Immortals. Envy was the favorite heading into this one, ranked 3rd in North America, with Immortals ranked 7th. Envy chose to ban out Haven, and Immortals chose Split. As a pleasant surprise, Envy actually chose Icebox as the first map to play on. Both teams decided to bring similar team compositions of Omen, Sova, and Reyna, but Team Envy took Raze and Cypher, while Immortals picked Jett and Killjoy. Throughout this game, Reyna definitely shined as a very strong pick on Icebox, which makes sense with so many tight corridors and angles to clear. You can get a lot of straight 1v1s that favor her, so if you're struggling with Icebox in solo queue, highly recommend you try picking her up. The first half of this map was defined by the standard rush on A site by Immortals. They send Omen and Sova belt, while the other 3 begin pushing towards site. They then use Sova's Owl Drone to clear angles so they can continue moving forward and prepare for the rush into site near A pipes. The execute ended up being very similar each round, with Immortals taking the right-handed path with at least 3 players. One person lurks late on the left path, and one typically hangs back near belt, overlooking the site. What results is pretty chaotic, with the round often dictated by who got the better of the gunfights or just straight up mechanics. Now, when I say that they did this every round, I'm not exaggerating. All 12 rounds on attack, Immortals did this exact execute, and as you'd expect, spamming the same strategy, they lost the majority of the rounds, heading into the second half down 5-7. Team Envy, on the other hand, showed a lot more variety and depth to their strategies on Icebox. Willing to attack any part of the map, they opened up with a very standard B-site take in order to start things off. First, using Sova's Owl Drone to clear the plethora of annoying angles and corners found on Icebox, which is good insight into why both teams likely picked him. They then sneak onto site, and you see what's becoming the standard plant on the rightmost edge of the plant zone, into then falling back to the green and yellow containers. This then forces the enemy into an awkward retake scenario, as you wait for them to tap the bomb, then dump all of your utility and swing with teammates to spam the spike location, and the enemy is caught out in the open with no cover. This makes the defenders have to actually push the post-plant positions where you can get very effective crossfires going. They also showed a really creative strategy using Omen and Raze ultimate. First, they begin slowly moving in and getting control of A pipes for Raze. Once this is done, Raze then ults into double satcheling into A site, pulling the rotates from Immortals since they're now assuming it's definitely an execute on A site. However, as soon as Raze ults into site, Envy instead rotates all team members to B site. They then use the Omen ultimate to scout and get that plant down extremely fast. By the time Immortals have figured out what's happened, Envy already has control of B site with the plant down, making for a nightmare retake scenario. Team Envy ends up taking the map in convincing fashion 13-5. Heading into the second map, Immortals picked Ascent, where things were much more competitive. Team Envy showed a willingness to spread out and play the entire map on attack and get a little fancy, perhaps to their detriment. You can see at the start of the round they send 2 players to pressure and take control of B main, while also sending 3 to pressure and take control of A lobby. This allows them to control both ult orbs, and the B players even begin to throw smokes and Cypher's camera, trying to distract and bait the rotate. They continue to make noise, running back and forth to trigger the sound effect on the enemy Cypher's cage, and throwing an Omen flash, really trying to sell that fake. However, Immortals don't bite, and as Envy tries to sneak into A site across the map, they're crossfired and suddenly find themselves with 3 dead, spiked down in A site, with their remaining 2 players having to rotate through mid. Still, the first half had a lot of rounds on a knife's edge, often being dictated by back and forth highlights and clutches by single members of each team barely outdoing each other to take the round. The second half of the map was much different though, with Team Envy demonstrating the effectiveness of an aggressive defense. They consistently would dedicate 2 players to push out aggressively to control B main, often giving up mid control in the process. This causes the only opening to B site to be through market in mid, but that's close enough to defender spawn and A site for the rotates to come in and help stop the push there. Team Envy would follow this pattern of playing aggressive on one site and passive on the other when it comes to defense. In this example, we see Cypher and Omen not going for B main control and instead playing safe in sight. Meanwhile though, on the other side of the map, Envy then went for a 3-man push into A lobby. This style of pushing one side of the map as defense really helped them get a lot of early intel and gave them more accurate predictions when it came to early rotates. In fact, the game was quite close, 12-11 in Team Envy's favor. And in the end, the final round was actually decided by this aggression on defense. Cypher first used his camera to clear the angle for Reyna to sneak into the cubby in B main. This more aggressive position by Reyna ends up catching Immortals off guard as they try to work into B main later in the round. Now, with the man advantage, Team Envy looks to play it safe and falls back to play crossfires on site. And Immortals, without the numbers to trade kill, find themselves losing the game and the match. A really impressive performance by Team Envy, who looked solid throughout, taking the 2-0 victory. They'll be moving on to the semifinals, which will be played on Saturday, December 5th. And finally, we had one final match of the quarterfinals today between the fan favorites TSM against Renegades.
One more match and one more absolute banger to be sure, Hex. 2 of NA's absolute best on display here, with the number 2 ranked team, Team Solo Mid, locking horns with the upstart kids over at Renegades. TSM have had a rocky few months in Pro Valorant, from being one of the standout teams and even consensus number 1 pick early on in the Ignition series, to seeing a steep decline following the Pop Flash Invitational. Many had wrote them off as a team that would never conquer the likes of Sentinels, the current number 1 in NA, but since then, that's clearly left a chip on this team's shoulders. Clawing their way through First Strike and really showing amazing improvement, the superstar team led by Wardell and Sabrosa comes into the playoffs looking for blood in the water. Renegades, by comparison, have been showing impressive growth as they climb through the lower tier events, culminating in an impressive run of form in the First Strike qualifiers to get here. The main mark against them, however, is how they handled top tier opposition, losing 3 times along the way to TSM and only being able to scrape a top 5 victory over Cloud9. Definitely the underdogs in this match. Renegade's fiery aggressive style was the perfect embodiment of North American Valorant, and who better to cut your teeth against than a team that's taken you down in the past. Both teams were ready to go deep in the set, so let's see what maps they took on. First game Ascent, second game Bind, and a third map decided to be duked out on Split. So let's just jump right into Ascent and see how the competition played out. Getting right into it, let's talk team compositions. TSM bringing NA standard the triple duelist team comp. This style came about when Sentinels burst into the top level scene, and it's taken off like wildfire since then. The whole idea is just abuse the high skill players on these teams and make 3 duelists suffocating to deal with as they stack on pressure on the defense or dissect offenses. It's a risk reward playstyle, but pulled off well can be undeniably great. TSM's 3 duelist variant includes Jet, Raze, and Phoenix as the duelist, backed up by Sova and Omen. Phoenix is a cornerstone of this team style because of his support capabilities. Renegades also bring a non-standard team composition with Skye, Jet, Raze, Omen, and Sova, which is sick for us because we get to see Skye's impact at the pro level. Unfortunately, as we'll see, that may not matter in this first map. To keep it succinct, TSM literally destroyed Renegades in this first map. 11-1 defense, 13-1 on offense for the map win. And this came from 2 primary things. Renegades not having a backup when their one playstyle failed, and TSM continually applying crippling pressure to every weakness that Renegades showed throughout this half. So, what do I mean? Well, Renegades based their entire Ascent offense on one A-take setup. It's a 5-man all-or-nothing rush using Paranoia from Omen and the Bird Blinds from Skye to get through A-main, then let the duelists go wild on the site to secure control. The problems are obviously that this strategy is a commit or fail. Either everybody goes or the strat can't happen, and in these situations, Renegades floundered. Jumping to round 5, watch how fast this goes. Round starts, utility used, and boom, Renegades are on the site scrapping around. The problem is that TSM really did their homework here. They didn't overcommit to holding site early and played a retake style against this. This let Wardell, by far the best player on the server, abuse the operator and dissect Renegades piece by piece. So, despite them getting site control and the spike plant, Renegades could do little to break the defense and actually secure the rounds. And TSM didn't even have to just wait for Renegades to take A. They could also just blow them the heck up before they even get out of main, just like in this round. Like, this round that you're watching is 23 seconds long, and it's only that short because TSM know that when the Paranoia and the Bird fly in, Renegades are not far behind, and they can just do this. Heading over to Bind, let's talk about the most interesting team compositions yet in this tournament. Both teams, I repeat, both teams brought Skye. TSM molding Skye into their triple duelist comp in place of Sova, and Renegades exchanging their Sova for even more flashes from Breach. Honestly, we didn't get to see too much from Skye in this set, mostly because the same steamroll from TSM continued into Bind. But not all was lost in the Wardell operator sauce. We did see a great innovative defensive strat from Renegades. Now, aggression on B-Long on Bind is nothing new, but what often isn't appreciated in Valorant is the ability to use pop flashes. Unlike a traditional flashbang from abilities like Phoenix's Curveball and Breach's Arm Cannon of Doom, a pop flash is a concept from Counter-Strike where you set up a flashbang to make no noise and only appear to the enemy right before it pops so that they have no reasonable possibility to dodge it. The problem is, in Valorant specifically, that there wasn't a flash ability that allowed that until Skye. Watch how Renegades play this round. Skye and Hookah launch their bird through the opening in the ceiling and directs it to pop in front of the courtyard, blinding and absolutely ruining two TSM players as the long push comes in. This kind of innovation is what we like to see around here, and hopefully Skye gets more cool tricks like this so that she can see some serious impact in the game moving forward. Unfortunately for Renegades, despite these cool flashes, they couldn't stop TSM in the end. TSM will go on to dominate this game, winning 13-5 and knocking out Renegades in like under an hour of games played, which is crazy quick. TSM will go forward to play Team Envy in the first semifinal matchup on Saturday, and it'll be interesting to watch these two aggro teams square off. And that was the final game played on this hectic first day of the First Strike playoffs. Two teams from EU and NA are set for their semi-final matchups, with Heretics upsetting Liquid, G2 coming out on the other side of their crazy match with Orgless in EU, and Team Envy and Team Solo Mid making huge statements on their side of the bracket in NA. Today we have the other half of the quarterfinals in EU. We have two unknown teams facing off, with Summon FC playing Purple Cobras, and the other powerhouse EU team in Fun Plus Phoenix squaring off against Null Penky. It's cool to see that there was such a shakeup of new teams being involved in the EU side, as it really had been Team Liquid, G2, and FPX trading the spotlight throughout the Ignition series. I truthfully know nothing about this first quarterfinals match, so I'm excited to see it play out, but as for the other matchup, I fully expect FPX, led by Angel, to pilot his team to victory against Null Penky. The NA side is where things get real spicy, my friends. 100 Thieves versus T1 and Sentinels versus FaZe Clan. Talk about a stacked bracket. Honestly, I'm taking the old boys of 100 Thieves to knock out T1, but that matchup is solely on the shoulders of Brax. If Brax can show his superstar form, I think he will run 100T into the ground. And while I really like this FaZe Clan lineup, it's gotta be near Herculean to think they could beat Sentinels. TSM on Thursday played Sentinels' brand of Valorant and absolutely destroyed their competition, and Sentinels are obviously even better at that aggro playstyle. Both of these matches are going to be dumb amounts of fun though, and I'm excited to watch them play out. And if you can't catch these games live, make sure you tune in tomorrow morning to see the results and best strategies from these quarterfinal matches right here on this channel. This has been an awesome tournament thus far, and awesome for us to cover for you guys. I especially want to shout out the great team working with me on this project, Hexadecimal for helping with the commentary load, and especially, can we get some love in the comments for Mito, one of our excellent editors who on short notice was able to help us with this project. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe and comment down below who you guys think is going to win First Strike, and we will see you tomorrow with even more tournament coverage.